80 to 90% of your success is based on your emotional intelligence. I have learned that business is everywhere. AI isn't going to replace building relationships. It says most people don't want freedom because freedom involves responsibility.
Welcome to Inspired by Success, the podcast where I deep dive into the mindset of successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, and thought leaders. Get ready to be inspired and gain valuable insights to unlock your true potential. From humble beginnings working on an Indiana farm to becoming a global entrepreneur and real estate mogul, this is the all-inspiring story of a man who mastered business valuation and built a thriving community helping people worldwide. He's an expert at assessing public companies and private assets, but his true passion is teaching financial literacy to inspire positive change. Blending human behavior insights with practical strategies, he overcame setbacks to achieve extraordinary success. A sought-after speaker on entrepreneurship and self-fulfillment, he shows how to use an entrepreneurial mindset for good. Get ready to be inspired by valuable life lessons from modest roots to remarkable achievements with the powerful journey of Oehlman. Welcome to the show, Zach.
Well, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Tell us about your journey and what inspired you to become an entrepreneur.
I grew up in a small farming town in Northwest Indiana, and I was on the farm and I loved it. And then my dad died when I was 12 and I took over the farm, and it was just something I wanted to do. Graduated high school, had zero respect for education, zero respect for high school. And then I graduated high school and I said, wow, reality check here. What am I going to do with my life? And I picked up a book about investing from Peter Lynch, very famous investor. And I started learning about this idea of making money. And, we weren't rich. We worked really hard for what we had. And so money was always a topic of conversation. And I wanted to make sure that it was something I never worried about. So I decided to go to college, got a degree in finance from Indiana University, and just started down that world of corporate America. And I didn't really enjoy it too much. That's where a friend of mine said, why don't we come over here and start investing in real estate? And that was sort of the entry level of it. And I always wanted to buy and sell businesses. I just didn't know how. So I started with real estate and then moved my way in, bought my first business, flipped that, and just started learning the whole world of what it takes to build a thriving business. And at the end of the day, it's people. You need community, you need people, you need a vast knowledge of the whole scope of what it takes to be a business owner or an entrepreneur. And so I've just been at it for 20 years with the ultimate intention of helping people, traveling the world and making some money.
Well, yeah, it seems like we were speaking beforehand that you've traveled to 24 different countries. We'll talk about that a bit later. But what are your key lessons for starting, scaling, and selling businesses successfully?
We have 5 values in my company. And the first 2, I think, are the most important and can be used in anything, specifically business. And the first one is intention. And the second one is personal responsibility. And so I believe if you set an intention, if you have an intention and you take personal responsibility in your life, there's nothing that you can't accomplish. And so if you take those 2 principles and you apply them to a business plan and a budget, in my opinion, there's nothing that you can't get through. And the challenge I see today is most people don't know where they're at financially. Most people don't know what it takes to get to where they want to be financially because they've never done the work. They've never done the homework. And most people don't have a plan. And so when I'm working with these businesses, I start asking, I said, what do you want? And it's probably one of the hardest questions anyone has to answer is, what do you want? Not just out of me, but out of life. And then what we do is we start building a business to point them in that direction so they can actually get what they want. And for me, for example, what I always wanted since I was a young kid, 16 years old, travel the world, help people make money. And so I started taking courses around that. I started learning how to do online businesses. I started, all of those skill sets needed to fulfill on those 3 things. I just went for it. And so have intention, take personal responsibility, create a budget and a plan, and there's nothing that can get in your way.
Wow. And you're doing this all purely online businesses. You're living the dream. Is that you've achieved what you wanted? You said you've lived in 24 different countries and you're moving around. So Is that all through just doing online and helping and guiding businesses?
Yeah, everything I have is online. We have people in South America. We have people in the Philippines. We have people in India. multiple different countries that work for us. And so, I've just learned how to manage a team online, and I have wonderful people that are in it for the long haul because, I'm not here just to make money. Like I said, I'm here to make a difference with the money I make because, making a difference in the world requires money. And instead of asking people money for charity, I said, let's just go make a bunch of it. And then we get to determine where we invest it and who we invest it in. And so everybody that's with me, they believe in the mission. They believe in our purpose. They believe in everything we're doing, and they get paid very well because I'm a big believer of making sure people meet their income goals. And so we meet with everyone on our team and ask them, what do they want? And then we help them get what they want through our business.
I love that. And you mentioned a lot of all your team is remote too. I've got a remote team too. So how do you motivate them, especially with different time zones as well? How do you keep them all motivated? And definitely pay is one factor, but are there other things that's
and so
helping?
I use the same thing I use with my clients, be it coaching or financial services or consulting services, is I ask them what they want. It's the simplest question. What do you want? And so we have people that want to travel the world. We have people that want to travel and go to concerts. We have people that want to buy a house on the hill. Everyone has their version of that, of what they want. And so we ask them, and then we go, okay, well, how much is that? And then we put a number to it, and we say, okay, if you do this in my business, you can get that in your life. And we literally lay the runway out for them. And so every day when they go to work, they know they're not working for Zach. They're not working for Learn and Grow Rich. They're working for their goals, their vision. It's sort of how I see it is, I run my own business, and so do they. At the end of the day, they run a business inside of my business. That's sort of how I see the world. Everyone's running a business, right? And so I just aligned their motives. I understand what their motives are. And then I show them, and I don't care. You could make $100,000 working for me a month. I don't care. I'll give you a runway to do that, because that's what I do with my clients. Where are you? Where do you want to go? Here's the plan, implement. And so everyone that works for me, they have a plan, and they know where they're at, they know where they want to go, and they know exactly the metrics to hit it financially. And then we give them time off. We treat people very well. And I've never had anybody quit. I've had to fire people, but I've never had anybody quit because we've just really created a beautiful community environment.
Wow, that sounds amazing. What are the common mistakes that you see businesses make when it comes to the finance aspect as well?
They don't have
and growing it.
they don't do it. Most people, finances is a scary word. Like, they don't want to look at them. They don't want to understand them, right? But at the same time, everyone wants to become rich. So it's like, I want to become rich. Well, what's your finances? Well, I don't know. Well, I tell people finance is the math of money. And let me rephrase that. Finance is the language of money. And if you don't know your finances, I can assure you, you're not going to achieve what you want. Because finance, the financial statements, I call it a money-making machine, income statement, cash flow, and balance sheet. Because if you understand how to interpret that, you know exactly what you need to do in your business. It'll tell you. But the challenge is it's hard. It's complicated. There's a lot to it. And the other challenge is there's not a whole lot of material out there to learn it. Most people are focused on sales and marketing. Really hot and heavy on sales and marketing, and they lack in finance and operations. And so we've built a model called FOSM, FOSM, and it stands for Finance, Operations, Sales, and Marketing. And it's how we build businesses, is we come in and we get your finances in order. So that way we know where you're at. And it's the ultimate feedback loop. So everything we do is going to be effective in your finances. And we've created a software where we update your finances every day. So, right, okay, how did we do yesterday? How did we do yesterday? And then we have a 5 or 10 year projection model on a monthly basis. So we can say, okay, hey, where are we? Where are we on track? So we have the information to make the decisions.
Oh, wow. That's very powerful. And you developed that yourself?
Oh, yeah. That's what I used to do in corporate America, was build financial projection models. And so I learned finance very, very well because I had to build the software to project it out.
Jeez.
Yeah.
You were sharing that chart earlier before a conversation. It was super detailed and organized. So now I understand where this came from as well. Can you share can you share any insights on building wealth through real estate and entrepreneurship? Like how can we build more wealth after we get familiar with our finances?
So I would say, I've been in real estate for a long time, and I think there's a huge misunderstanding of real estate, and I see it all the time, and it looks like this. Get into real estate with none of your own money, none of your own credit. Become an investor. And that's why I got into it. But the reality is, you're not an investor if you don't have money. You're a business owner. And a business owner they have two primary responsibilities: marketing and sales. And so when people are trying to get into this world of real estate, specifically if they don't have any money, is they have this misconception of what they need to do. They think they don't have to do sales and marketing. And they just get frustrated. They're like, Zach, I'm not making money. I was like, well, how many people did you talk to? They're like, none. I was like, well, there's your problem.
Yeah.
You're not talking to people. They're just like, but I don't want to. I want to be an investor. I'm like, you don't have money. And if you go look up the definition of investor, it's allocation of capital, allocation of your capital. And so I'm a big advocate on that. And that's why, I was telling you in the green room, I used to sell a $23,000 program, and now I just give it all away because I don't want people buying stuff they're not ready for. And so I give these classes away, and I say, that's the reality of what you're heading down. And so what I tell people is I say, use your job or a business to make money, and then take that money and then reinvest it into real estate as a wealth building tool to build up your balance sheet, to build up your asset base. But, the idea of fix and flipping your way to wealth or wholesaling your way to wealth, is it possible? Yeah. Is it the best way? In my opinion, absolutely not. I say go find something that you're great at, learn how to make money in it, and then the money that you do make, reinvest that into real estate, because it's fantastic for wealth building. It's a fantastic store of value, and it's a fantastic tax strategy. And so we use a lot of that in our financial services business because, I'm all encompassing. We help people buy and sell businesses, buy and sell real estate, all of it. And so I can help them acquire real estate as well to mitigate their taxes and get their taxes down.
Interesting. And you mentioned reinvesting, but why do you think real estate versus expanding in the business and putting capital into business expansion? What are your thoughts on that?
So I would say, it depends. It depends on what is your destination. And that is why in this world of entrepreneurism and business, everything depends. I have a morning call every morning with my community. Everyone knows, well, it depends. Where are you? Where do you want to go? What's your risk tolerance? What's your time horizon? How much liquid cash do you have versus this? Do you need tax benefits? And so anybody that is giving financial advice that doesn't understand the specific financial statements of the person they're talking to, in my humble opinion, it's reckless. And I see it all the time because people think there's a black and white answer to everything in finance. And it's the most gray area ever because everyone has a different skill set. Same thing with business, right? Everyone has a different skill set. Everyone has a different availability, time. Everyone has different amounts of money. Everyone has different things they're great at and different things they're scared of. And so what I do is okay, what are you passionate about? What's your highest valued skill set? How can we monetize that as quickly as possible? And will it scale? And so I just have really fun conversations. I can create a business with somebody as long as they're willing to do the work. And so that is much easier to monetize than trying to go buy a piece of real estate where you cannot make any more money out of it. Like a house can only rent for what a house can rent for. You can do everything to it, but it's not going to rent for more than the market. There's a limit to it. With business though, you can do $5,000 this month, you could do 10 grand and then 20 grand the third and 40 grand and then 80 grand. So you could double it every month. Theoretically, you can't do that with real estate. And so real estate is much more capital intensive. Even if you're doing all this fun creative financing, seller carries, all that type of stuff, is still very capital intensive. And so I tell people, I say, learn by doing a business. Learn the skill set of making money. And then once you have that skill set of making money, then we can scale. Most people don't have the skill set of making money, though.
That's interesting. Yeah, because being an entrepreneur is definitely can be challenging if you don't know what you're doing. There's a lot of roller coasters as well. How do you assess risks when investing or pursuing new opportunities? Because you've got a system in place, but how do you assess the risk?
I look at how much could I lose. That's always okay. I do not like capital intensive investing in other businesses. And so the businesses that I invest in, I already have the infrastructure. So I have the finance team. I have my own, everybody that is on my team is on my staff. I used to do third party, and it was a problem because no one wanted to take responsibility for when things went wrong. So I said, hey, I'm going to build this out. So I have my own CPAs on staff. I have my own bookkeepers on staff for our financial services firm. I have my own operations director. We have our own AI team. We have our own sales team. We have our own marketing team. So FOSM. And so when I'm looking at a business, I go, okay, will my business model work in that business? So that's the first question. The second question I ask is, do I like the person? Right? Do I like the person? Do they have integrity? Are they going to do the right thing? Are they willing to be coachable and let me guide their ship? And then I also look, is what they're selling good? Can I get behind what they're selling? Because if I can't get passionate about it, and if it's not making a difference in the world through my eyes, I'm not going to get passionate about it. And then I'm going to lose interest in it. And so every portfolio company that I have, I absolutely love. I love the owners. I love the business model. I love the product or service that we're selling. And so I can support it and I can get excited about it. I can keep the team excited about it. And so that's how I look at risk, because at the end of the day, if it fits those parameters, it's not really risky for me, because the way that I take on businesses is I have them pay me. And what I mean by that is the reason I have a financial services business is I want to do their finances. I want to do their books, and I want to do their taxes, and I want to do their CFO, fractional CFO services. So I can understand, is this company profitable? Is there a good foundation? And then if it is, I'm getting paid to do all that. So I'm getting paid to do all that work. And then if it is, I approach the owner and I say, hey, I would be willing to invest my time, money, and energy into scaling this business for a piece of equity. And we have that conversation. And then I bring in the O, the S and M, operations, sales, and marketing. But I got paid to do the due diligence. I'm getting paid to do the finance. And so that's how I mitigate risk right there.
What are some hot business opportunities that you're looking at right now in this online? You mentioned AI space as well. Like, you've got an AI team, but what do you think, given the economy and what's going on now in the world, are there any opportunities that you're looking at?
All day, finance, I'll put it this way, bookkeeping and tax services. In the United States, that is such a hard industry. I started it because I had problems with my own CPAs. I had problems with my own bookkeepers. Like I said, I had to create my own software to update the finances daily, because almost every bookkeeper out there is behind, right? They take on way too much for way too less. And so they're understaffed and overworked. And so you can't get updated financials. And if you can't get updated financials, you can't make accurate decisions. And so that's where I'm really focused. My time right now is personal finances, helping people get out of debt, helping people understand debt, helping people understand their income. If it's a job, I mean, our software works for anyone from the W-2 all the way up to, I have much more advanced versions of it, to people that want to take their company public. And so that software in the financial sector right now is huge. And we're really focused on that. And educational service-based businesses. And so we have a company that teaches you how to learn and retain information forever. I was actually a student of it, and it was one of the best courses I've ever taken. Another business that we have that does design for architecture work for homes, building homes. And so that, it's a huge, huge need right now in the United States. And so I'm looking at very simple businesses. I don't get into the high-tech space. I don't understand it. And so I try to keep very simple businesses that I understand. Service-based businesses, obviously you're dealing with people, so it's a little bit harder to manage than some, you call it software. But at the end of the day, it aligns with my purpose, which is to empower people to live an amazing life in all aspects of their life. And so I get to deal directly with them. One of the other big areas is personal development. So we're getting ready to buy a farm down here in Colombia, and we're going to have spas, all the different modalities of body work, personal development. I want people to be able to come there and just unplug from technology, because I think people are so, especially the business, there's so much tech. And just this last weekend, I went out into the mountains of Colombia with 4 of my friends, and we just, we had a little retreat, and I just was hanging out with nature. And it's such a beautiful experience to disconnect from all of this. And I think people need it for their emotions. I think people need it for their sanity. And so that's the space that we're really looking at, is doing very fun resort style where you can go and eat fresh food and work on yourself and still work, right? And still work from there. So high speed internet and all the fun stuff.
Wow, that sounds like a promising little project that you've got there too. You mentioned personal development as well. So how does blending human behavior and business strategy benefit you? Because I noticed that the top performing entrepreneurs, people that are driven and ambitious, they're also into their personal development and making sure they're looking after themselves. So how does blending human behavior and business strategies benefit you?
There was a study, and the results of the study was about emotional intelligence. They said 80 to 90% of your success is based on your emotional intelligence. You need intellectual intelligence like IQ. That opens the door. That'll get you in the door. But if you're not developing yourself emotionally, you're going to be an entry-level player all day long, right? Because where I'm at today, I work with people. I'm inspiring my team. I'm out front doing events like this. And, I'm waving the flag. And so I have to deal with my own humanity. And once you understand humans, I've lived in 24 countries. And so we're all the same. I don't care where you're at, right? We're all, human is a human. The small nuances are different. But in my world of finance is really the quantification of human emotion. And if you think about it, because I used to do financial projections for big companies, and I still do them today. And if you think about it, what we're trying to do is predict who's going to buy my stuff or who's going to buy your stuff. And so there's an emotion. Okay, why are they going to buy my stuff? Well, they're going to buy my stuff because they don't know where they're at financially. And that causes emotional stress and anxiety, and divorce rates go up because people don't know where they're financially. Emotion, it's right there, emotion. And so if you understand that emotion, you can get in front of the proverbial curve and know what is causing the actual numbers to move. Because most people, they do these big fancy projection models and they look at financial statements and they don't know why numbers move. Other than, somebody bought my stuff, but why did somebody buy your stuff? Like, go out to the next step and to the next step and to the next step. And it makes it so much more clear when we're in the business world, if I understand the humans that are going to be eventually buying my stuff.
So how does one develop a stronger emotional intelligence? Any tips for that?
Oh, there's tons of programs out there. I spent 4 years in Landmark. It's a worldwide thing. It's called the Landmark Forum. There's many different other similar programs out there. I spent 4 years in that. And the first key is to understand yourself. Why am I getting mad right now? Why am I losing my emotion or my temper? Why do I get frustrated when people do this? And so once you understand yourself, that's the easy part. Then you get to understand other people. But you've already done a lot of the work by understanding yourself. And so I have a personal development coach. Well, she's a high performance coach. I coach with her twice a week, been doing it for 5 years. And, whenever I get frustrated or I want to ram something through, let me rephrase that. I want to force something. We look at it. So why am I forcing it, as opposed to enrolling people to want to do something or inspiring people to want to move? Because if you start dominating people and become authoritative and, that's why we all left corporate America, I think, because we were all treated like that. I know I was. And it wasn't a good feeling. And I said, I'm never going to do that to my team. And that's why we have our management the way we do is it's their business. And a lot of times they're telling me what to do. But that takes books. I mean, there's just so many books out there on the Tony Robbins type stuff. One of the best books I've ever read is The Psychology of Your Subconscious Mind.
Yeah, I think he's written other books too. Yeah, that's
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's an oldie, but the background on my phone is just, the thoughts that we think create our reality. I also do a lot of Mind Valley courses. So right now I'm in 2 courses in Mind Valley, the Art of Manifesting and Life book. And so I'm always in a course like that. And of course, I'm focusing on my IQ, my intellectual component of it, but I focus way more on my emotional component of it. And then what I do is I'll buy the intellectual stuff, like how to do Facebook ads or how to do YouTube ads or how to use whatever. I buy those for my team. So I spend a lot of money on courses for my team. And so they're learning the intellectual component of it. And then I'm the emotional component of it. And so I know how to keep them inspired. I know when they're having a bad day. I know when they're stuck. I know them. But they're the ones actually increasing their intellectual capacity in those areas. And then I just trust them. They know the mission. We meet on a daily basis. We have little teen huddles and we do, we have our 10-year goals, our 3 years, our 1 year, our Q1, 2, 3, and 4. So everyone knows where we're going. And then I just give them the freedom and get out of their way.
Wow. That's something that I aspire to do too. I love that because I haven't heard that different perspective. You're empowering them, but you're also self-developing and empowering yourself in the emotional level. And you mentioned Mind Valley too, that course, because I always see it on YouTube, the manifesting one.
Oh, they've been following me around for years. Oh my gosh.
I get it all the time.
Yeah.
But is that the course, the manifesting one, is that with that the female, the girl that's on the Aussie girl? Is that the course that you're doing with her?
Yeah.
Is it good? Because I'm thinking, because she's built amazing things, like that big thing in Brazil or that country. She came from nothing. Now she's just building.
I think it's Costa Rica.
Costa Rica?
Yeah, I mean, it's fabulous. And so one of the biggest things was, I had a breakthrough. I like to control things, hence why I'm the guy running the show here in my business. I like to know, and I like to know before I go into things and control stuff. And she talks about this idea of surrendered manifestation. And it's like, consider you don't know and be okay with it. And that was such a hard thing for me to do, is just, I don't know, and it'll come to me and I'll figure it out. And I set the intention, right? You have to have that intention and be mindful of it. And, it's magic. It's like things just start happening. It's so fun.
It's like synchronous. I hear it all the time, like you meditate and then synchronicities happen as well. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about it all the time too.
Oh, I love, so that's the type of stuff. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's got beautiful self-guided meditations. So, it's a balance, because when you first start, I never knew anything about personal development. I was like, what is that? And so you have to work on that, but you also have to work on your intellectual component. Remember, the IQ gets you in the door. And so it's like, if you're ignorant on that, you can have all the emotional intelligence in the world, but if you don't have a value skilled set, it's like, good luck. And so when I first started, it was a little bit of both, a little bit of both, a little bit of both. And today it's mainly, how do I keep all of these people moving forward with velocity? Which is, there's some intellectual component there, but a lot of it is emotional intelligence and knowing when to lean in and let off, and when to let people go, be it in their own direction or let them go, like fire them. So there's a lot of that stuff, but there's so many. We use the book EOS, Traction, Entrepreneur Operating System, to manage our businesses. That's a famous book out there that we use.
Interesting. I'm going to cut that down. It's beautiful what you're talking about too. I'm learning a lot. And I wanted to ask, many entrepreneurs get caught up in the hustle and grind and often sacrificing important aspects of their life. And I've talked to many guests that when I ask them what success means, it's having those things like fitness, finance, family, faith, spirituality, all balanced, not balanced, but at a level where they're feeling fulfilled as well. But what are your thoughts on that? And based on your experience, what unconventional wisdom can you share about balancing your business with personal, spiritual, and now you're getting into holistic well-being to actually achieve that true fulfillment as an entrepreneur?
I would say there is no such thing as balance. It's like my life is my life. I wake up. I used to live in that context of balance, right? But what is it? I'm thinking about my business 24/7 because my business is fulfilling my purpose. And so my purpose is to empower people to live an amazing life in all aspects of their life, myself included. And so when that's my purpose, everything I do is for that. So we went to the mountains this weekend, 3-day, beautiful, no cell phones really. And I was just laying on a riverbank thinking about, okay, how can I help more people? What can I do in my business? And then I went on a hike and I was like, okay, what's the lesson to be learned here? And I had these just really profound, fun thoughts. And then it led into, well, we're going to start a children's camp and bring inner city kids to the mountains so they can learn about bugs and they can scrape their knees up and learn about risk, right? Because you learn a lot about risk. I've done a lot of survival. I've been dropped off in the middle of the Amazon and stuff like that. And it's like, you're assessing risk. Do I do that? Because if I do that and I get hurt, I could die. And so there's just so much fun stuff to learn about that with nature. And so I'm constantly 24/7, I'm living my business because my business is my purpose. And I think that's where a lot of people may not be where I'm at because I got started to make money. It's like I got started to make money and then we made some great money. And then it's like, okay, now what? I heard a great quote the other day that said, money's like air. When you don't have it, you're you do anything for it. But once you have enough, there's no incremental happiness factor, right? And so, my wife and I think we've reached that point where it's like, okay, we got the money. Now what? What's the impact we're going to do in this world? And it's fulfilling our purpose. And it's 24/7.
Wow, that's very beautiful. So, what motivated you to empower people globally, and how do you measure that impact as well?
I think what inspired me is growing up in a small farming community, seeing how hard everyone worked. When you grow up in the Midwest, it's like you pride yourself on how much you work. And seeing people put in the effort, but also not being directed down the right road, right? I heard this from Alex Hermosy. He says, you're giving 10 on a 10 effort on a 2 on a 10 opportunity. And I resonated with that because I'm working my brains out on an opportunity that isn't going to go any further. Like, this is it. And so I know everyone has something inside of them and they want it. And I got to see my mom. My dad died when I was 12. And so my mom raised 3 kids. And gosh, she did an amazing job. But oh my God, she worked her butt off for it. And, she really didn't have anyone there setting her up. I didn't really have anyone there guiding me. Like I said, I've spent over $1 million on myself and my wife through trial and error and coaching and mentorships and school and education. And I feel like I have a framework for people. And that framework is going to help them save a lot of time, money, and energy. And so I want them to have it because if they're doing good, I'm going to do good. Because people can only buy my stuff if they have money, right? And so I live with this idea of there's plenty to go around. And in fact, the more successful you are, the more money you have to spend on stuff because money really doesn't sit in the bank. It's constantly moving, right? And so there's more money to go around. And so that's sort of the idea that I have. And so how do we measure it? Well, we have foundations that we support and we're getting ready to launch something inside of my Learn and Grow Rich community where we're actually going to track it each month. How much money did you give and how much time did you give? Like, what did you give? Time, money, or resources? And then we're going to track it. And then the people that win, people that give the most in each category, we're going to help them. They're going to win prizes like CRMs and consulting and maybe free tax strategies or something to help them make more money so that they can give more. And so that's what we're doing right now.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I heard money is just like energy. So it's very beautiful what you're doing. How has traveling to 24 countries shaped your worldview and business approach?
I have learned that business is everywhere. If there's another person, commerce exists. right? Let me rephrase that. If there's another person and they're exchanging some type, it doesn't have to be money. I mean, I've been to places where money really doesn't exist, the paper form of money. They're bartering. And, one of my favorite places to go down here in Columbia is the farmer's market. And you just see the purest form of commerce right there. They get in there early in the morning, they're bringing all their beautiful foods, and the competition and the quality and the negotiations and the integrity, because if you buy some bad fruit at a bad price, they're not coming back. I've learned so much. And the biggest one is businesses everywhere. Even if you're a W-2 person, that's a business because you're selling them on yourself. You're just getting paid through a different text or through a different format called taxes taken out, pseudo FICA here in the United States. But the concept is the same: balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow. And that's the heart of a business, is the financials of it. Any decision anybody makes affects those three statements: income, cash flow, and balance sheet. And I don't care where it is, where you're at in the world, that's business, that's finance. And if you can understand that, you can make a lot of money. And it's really just solidified that, because I see it in so many shapes and forms. And the other one I've learned is you there's stuff that you know conceptually, but then you experience it. And the thing that I knew and then I experienced is sales is everything. Right? I was a finance guy, socially awkward, afraid of the world. And without a sale, nothing happens. Step 2 does not happen. Step 3 does not happen. Well, sale isn't the first step, right? You have to do marketing first. But that is one of the biggest challenges I see entrepreneurs and business people face, is they're scared of sales. They're scared of marketing. And then you got the other people that love sales and marketing, but they neglect finance and operations. And so it's this whole dance. And my advice to people is learn how to make money. I don't care if it's a lemonade stand. Learn how to make money. And then once you learn the principles of money, of like how to make it and how to manage it on your income statement, cash flow, and balance sheet, you can make money on anything, theoretically. But the challenge is people buy these high ticket courses that may be selling one component of it. And I bought a lot of high ticket courses, but then they don't have the rest of the components of it. And so they fail because they spent $10,000, $20,000 on YouTube ads course or Facebook ads course or whatever, or high ticket closing or whatever it is they're buying, but then they don't understand the rest of this formula. And so my advice would be understand it at a very small level with no money at risk or very little money at risk. Understand those principles, and then you can scale the principles. You try to take off a big chunk before you understand the principles of making money, you'll get schooled one way or another.
Wow. And in terms of making money, are you leveraging, I'm curious to know about the AI team that you have, leveraging AI these days to help businesses. Like, are there any advice or tips or tools that you have that every business owner should be using? ChatGPT or a Claude at least, but me for one, running this podcast, I can't live without AI. So what are your thoughts on that? And how would you leverage it as well? Because people either embrace it or just fear it.
I think people would be ignorant to not use it. It's like, oh yeah, I don't think the internet's going to be around. Right? It's like, no, the internet's here to stay. And so I think in the world that I live in, I'm here to build relationships with people. I mean, I have people who've been with me for 15 years. And AI isn't going to replace building relationships. It helps facilitate that process. Like, it got me here with you, but I'm the one here with you, right? And so I think, you just got to be mindful of how to use it. And then at the same time, it's so easy to go down to a rabbit hole because there's just so much AI. And there's so much auto posters and auto content creators. And my coaching to the people listening to this would be, we do this to develop ourselves. And if you're not doing the critical thinking and you're not doing the work, you're not going to develop yourself, right? And that's one of the big challenges with AI is the critical thinking. For some people, it helps them critically think, because you can have a conversation, what about this? And I use it like that a lot as well. But for a lot of other people, they replace their thinking with it. And so when they come into real life scenarios, they don't know how to critically think. And I know Elon Musk is a big, he talks a lot about this, is same thing with a lot of the people I follow, very intellectual people. We're here to develop humans. Because if you think about it, humans have a purpose. What's the purpose of AI? Until it creates one, its purpose is to serve humans. I mean, theoretically, I don't know all the way down to the nitty gritty of it. But that's just some thinking that I've done. And so, eventually one day, maybe it'll have a purpose and maybe it'll have its own intention. But right now it's here to serve us. And so what is your intention? What is your purpose? What do you want it to do? Because there's AI out there to do everything you want to do. The question is, does it align with what you want to do? And is it serving your purpose? And so I think that's one of the challenges, is people lack intention and they lack purpose. And so they're just out there busy with a lot of fun, cool stuff, but it's not directed somewhere.
Wow, that's beautiful. Who are your biggest inspirations? You mentioned books that you've talked about, the psychology of subconscious mind, but do you have any people that inspire you and helped you especially make a huge impact on your development in business world or even in the emotional space? Who has been your biggest inspiration?
My mom, believe it or not, seeing her raise 3 kids, working 2 jobs and supporting me through college. And, that was a huge sacrifice she made. And so my mom is definitely number one. And then when it comes into the world of, professional mentors, I really respect Alex Hermosy. I respect Elon Musk. Oh my gosh, that guy. And so the people I look to follow are the people that have high integrity. And it's more than just making money for them. What Elon Musk is doing right now with all of his businesses, and, he's taking on this stance of freedom of speech, whether you like it or not, you get to say it. And I think without people like that are willing to put their money at stake for the better of humanity, I'll follow those people anywhere. And, I have this saying, I thought of this, it was like, can you afford to have an opinion? And what I mean by that is a lot of people don't speak up because they're afraid it's going to affect their finances. They're afraid they're going to lose their job. They're going to material impact their finances. And so my goal is that I can help you make enough money where you can actually have an opinion, and then teach you how to make that money with integrity. And, our 5 principles are intention, personal responsibility, integrity, dream big, and do the work. And there's not one problem in the world that can't be solved with one of those principles. And so if I can teach great people to make money and instill those principles, the world's going to become a better place.
That's beautiful. Very inspiring indeed. What key message would you like to leave our audience today?
Embody and embrace the 2 principles, intention and personal responsibility. If you're complaining about something, consider it's your fault. And I don't care if it is or not, right? Take ownership of it. Because if you take ownership of it, it puts you in the driver's seat. But if you blame someone else for your stuff or whatever it is that you're complaining about, you lose all of your power. You lose all of your power. So take personal responsibility for your life. There was just this beautiful quote, and it talked about freedom and personal responsibility. And it was from Sigmund Freud. I just sent this to my wife. It says, most people don't want freedom because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. Sigmund Freud, very famous, guy in the psychology world. And then intention. What are you doing with your life? Why did you show up to work today? Why did you do everything in your life? Most people don't know. Most people are like, well, I'm here because I'm here. I'm like, why did you use those words? And this is something I get coached on all the time with my high performance coach. She's like, why did you say that? I was like, oh, I wasn't thinking. I lacked intention. I know it now because I'm highly trained at it. But most people, they just spew nonsense and they have no idea what they're saying. And so when you're intentional and you take personal responsibility, you have more time. You're saying no to things that don't fulfill you. You're saying no to things that don't move you towards your goal. And then I'm going to add a third one in there, integrity. The most valuable thing we have is our word. did this beautiful article. I said, the honest man goes to bed rich because there's nothing more valuable than your peace of mind and your integrity.
Wow, that's very beautiful. Very, very nice quote there. What does success mean to you? How would you personally define success?
Do you have a purpose and are you fulfilling it?
I like that.
So if you have
That's
a
very,
purpose and you're
that's
fulfilling it,
powerful.
what else is there? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Because it doesn't
different.
have
A
to be
very
around
unique
money, right? Because
perspective.
it's like, well, I'm here to empower people that live an amazing life in all aspects of their life. I work on it every day. Success.
I like it. And what excites you about the future? What's to come?
So we're launching our platform, Learn and Grow Rich. And, it's an all-inclusive, every puzzle piece to have a great life, be it personal, business, professional. And we're giving away all our master classes and then my farms. So we want to start the sustainable farming because I want people to heal holistically. I want them to heal emotionally. I want them to heal in their body. I want them to understand nutrition. And I want them to understand, hey, you got to contribute to society. Like there's no free lunch. And if you figure out all of those things, you can live a fulfilled life.
Wow, that's beautiful. Guys, if you found this valuable and insightful, please do me a favor, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, comment what you think as well. And if you're listening on the podcast, please hit the follow button. Finally, where can people find you and connect with you, Zach?
Yeah, the best way is my school community, learnandgrowrich.net. I give away all my master classes there. If you need help with consulting, any of our businesses, that's the front door to it. Our biggest thing is making sure you get supported with where you're at. And as I said earlier, I think one of the big challenges is, you got these people, and I use quotes here, that are in proverbial second grade when it comes to this world that are getting sold PhD level support structures. They're going to fail. And so everyone comes into our free community and, we have entry level $97 a month masterminds all the way up to, we could help take your company public if you wanted to. But, our promise is we're not going to sell people for the sake of selling it. We want you to be a lifetime community member. And that means making sure you're around and your finances are good, and selling you a bunch of nonsense you don't need isn't a way to do that. So
I like it. And also that software, I'm curious to know how can, how you mentioned that software that helps with your finances as well, and you can give you forecasting. How can
everything's on
others?
learnandgrowrich.net.
Okay, nice. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Zach. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure on my end as well.